ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀਓ। ਮੰਤਰੰ ਰਾਮ ਰਾਮ ਨਾਮੰ ਧਿਆਨੰ ਸਰਬਤਰ ਪੂਰਨഃ ਗਿਆਨੰ ਸਮ ਦੁਖ ਸੁਖੰ ਜੁਗਤ ਨਿਰਮਲ ਨਿਰਵੈਰਣഃ ਦਇਆਲੰ ਸਰਬਤਰ ਜੀਆ ਪੰਚ ਦੋਖ ਬਿਵਰਜਿਤੈ ਭੋਜਨੰ ਗੋਪਾਲ ਕੀਰਤਨੰ ਅਲਪ ਮਾਇਆ ਜਲ ਕਮਲ ਰਹਤੈ ਉਪਦੇਸੰ ਸਮ ਮਿੱਤਰ ਸਤਰਹਿ ਭਗਵੰਤ ਭਗਤ ਭਾਵਨੀ ਪਰ ਨਿੰਦਾ ਨਹਿ ਸਰੋਤ ਸਰਵਣੰ ਆਪ ਤਿਆਗ ਸਗਲ ਰੈਣੁਕਾ ਖਟ ਲਖਿਣ ਪੂਰਨੰ ਪੁਰਖੈ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਸਾਧ ਸਵਜਨੈ ਖਟ ਲਖਿਣ ਪੂਰਨੰ ਪੁਰਖੈ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਸਾਧ ਸਵਜਨੈ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, you've all just listened to the 40th slok that is blessed to us by Dhan Sri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Sache Paatshah Ji in this beautiful Bani called Salok Sehaskriti. In this slok, Paatshah Ji, they say to us, Mantrang, Satsangat Ji, Mantrang is that mantra that is given to us by our Guru. That mantra that we use to connect to Vaheguru Ji with. That mantra that we recite again and again to awaken us from inside. That mantra that we recite, so that name that we are saying, so we can start seeing that one in everything. Vaheguru, Vaheguru ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਉਹੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਭਨਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਆਉਣ ਲੱਗ ਪਵੇ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਆ, ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਜਪਿਆ ਸੇ ਹਰ ਹੋਏ। ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ say to us, ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਰਾਮਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਆ, and they saying to us, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਜਪਿਆ, those that have truly meditated on the name of God. What is the then ਉਹਦਾ ਅਸਰ ਕੀ ਆ? What is the outcome of that? How would we know that they truly have meditated on God's name? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਨ ਹਰ ਜਪਿਆ ਸੇ ਹਰ ਹੋਏ, they actually become that Paramatma Roop themselves. They become the actual form of Vaheguru Ji, the name whose name they were saying. Now they become a part of that one's name. Sangat Ji, and sometimes we might think, whoa, that's a bit, out of the box. But this is our Sache Paatshah Ji's Bani. Bhagat Kabir Ji, they go through so many examples as well. Kende that what should a servant of Vaheguru Ji be like? And they're saying that Vaheguru Ji is so perfect. So they say that what can you say that this servant should be like? They go through so many different examples. They say that yes, you know what? The servant should be like a stone. Then they say, well, actually no. That yes, you may start off as a stone, meaning where you have to live a life that is very disciplined and rigid. You don't really take care of, you don't think of what others think, in the sense of you're not really sensitive about anybody else's emotions. You don't really care in that mode if you're hurting somebody. So Bhagat Kabir Ji say, kende ke tum patthar ta ban gaya, yes, you become a stone. This is but kende as you become this stone, so you're living a very disciplined life. Kende panthi ko dukh de. Kende but that person that is walking on that path made out of stones, kende you are hurting them. Those, if somebody is walking barefoot on these stones, you're going to be hurting them. So Paatshah Bhagat Kabir ji saying, you don't always think of what you're going to be, if you're going to be hurting somebody else. That's just the first stage. Kehne panthi ko dukh de. Then they go on to say, then you know what? Bhagat Kabir ji say, you need to then now become softer than that. You need to now become like the mitti. You need to now become like the dust. They said, at least now if you become like dust, then when people actually walk on you, at least you won't hurt them now. Because the first stage of dharam is that, Sangat ji. Because when we talk about mantran of Raam, namang, but then Paatshah kende dhyanang sarbattar purana, kende that you actually are able to then, what is your meditation? They said your meditation is that sarbattra, that somebody will say that their meditation is to sit down and close their eyes. Somebody's meditation is to sit in a certain posture. But Paatshah ji saying that what is it? Kende tera natija kiya, uda asar kiya. What is the result of you doing all of this? And Paatshah ji saying that you taking this mantra and saying Raam, Raam again and again. Paatshah says the whole, where are you going? What is your destination? Your destination is that your meditation eventually, from sitting down, from doing it a certain way, reciting God's name in a particular way with your breath going in, your breath going out. But Sangat ji, these are all the starting points. These are like the rails for us to be able to climb those stairs. But pyareo, kai vari ki hunda ya, somebody thinks that actually that my rehat, my discipline, my way of living is my destination. But no, pyareo, that's why Bhagat Kabir ji said, they said no. Kende that tu patthar ta ban gaya, yes, you become like that stone. They said, but yet kende Kabir roda hua ta kya paya? Kende, and what if you become like that stone? This is a Kabir roda hua ta kya paya, panthi ko dukh de. Kende, yes, even though it's Kabir ji, they first said to become like a pebble. So if we just look at the pankti before this pankti, what Bhagat Kabir ji is saying first, Bhagat Kabir ji first actually say, they say become like that stone. Kende par patthar hun tu ban gaya, par hun vek. Kende pyareo, so Sangat ji, that the way our discipline is not our destination. Because even in the end of this, Bhagat Kabir ji say, this says tu tarni ban ja, they said become the dust. Sangat ji, asal vich na, you know what, I wasn't planning to talk about these sloks, but idhar nu aa gaya, and it could be quite dangerous if I just leave it halfway and I don't go into detail of what these sloks actually mean. Sangat ji, eh Baba Ishwar Singh ji Kalera wale kende hunde san, kende asal vich kende eh Gurmukh di, kende Gurmukhan di, kende ona di eh manzil ya avastha ya dassi gayi, alag alag avastha, alag alag manzil dassi gayi, kende Gurmukh di. Baba Ishwar Singh ji would say, this is actually, this Salok is telling us about the different stages a Gurmukh goes through. So we might as well look at it now that I've mentioned it. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. Bhagat Kabir ji, if we look at this Kabir Roda, kehne Kabir Roda hua ta kya paya, the pankti before that. So if we look at the pankti before that, what Bhagat Kabir ji is saying just before this pankti of Kabir Roda hua, they're saying to become like that stone. Why is it? Why Bhagat Kabir ji saying to become like that stone? The reason for that is saying that when we first come on to this path of having that yearning inside to meet and have union with Vaheguru ji. See, we may come from a completely really crazy background. So Virji, if you could just put the pankti before, just the first one of the slok. So if we just look at what Kabir ji, this is the first stage is that Sangat ji, when just like Bhagat Kabir ji saying to us, so is living in discipline. Because we often come from a background where we're complete, our senses are out of control. The senses have no sense what to look at. ਕਿਤੇ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੀਆਂ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਿੱਧਰ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਣੀਆਂ, ਮੂੰਹ ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਦੇਖੀ ਜਾਣਾ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪਰਵਾਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ। And what that means, ਮੂੰਹ ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਦੇਖੀ ਜਾਣਾ, that means is not, I've got no discipline in their life, not even caring of what these eyes are doing and where they're wandering off to, what they're looking at, having no control over these ears, having no discipline in being able to sit down and recite the Guru's Bani. But then, Sangat ji, this is the first step that we have to be really hard on ourselves. And there's times when we are acting a certain way and it's actually could be bringing a lot of pain to family members that are around us. And for example, somebody gets up in the morning and recites Bata out loud, and then a family member gets upset and they're saying, look, we're trying to rest, we're trying to sleep, and I don't know what, can you not just be quiet? But Aurora is that, you know what, I can't be quiet, even though it's disturbing you, even though I've got to do what I need to do for myself. That's why Bhagat Kabir ji says that's just the first step of you being like that, you not being able to accommodate. So we know we can't continue like that, but in the beginning we might have to start off our journey like that. That's why Kabir ji say that's actually not enough. They say that Kabir roda hua ta kya paya panthi ko dukh de, you're hurting people, somebody else that is delicate, meaning somebody else. Now another thing that we do when somebody first comes on this path, because you have to protect yourself, because you don't want to fall off now that path. So you might meet somebody, another friend that you used to, used to spend time with, used to chill out with. And you used to have a little laugh together, you used to have a glassy together, you'd have a little drink together, you'll do whatever it was, have a night, have a little gossip. I can't call it nice, sorry. Have gossip, talk about people, but now you're like really raw and you're firm. But Sangatji then, but what can happen is eventually, once you become disciplined, you can't remain like that, because what will happen is, Patiko Dukde means you start looking down at them and you start speaking to them as if they're inferior and you're superior to them. To say, oh look how good I've become. But the moment you say, look how good I've become, then kende aapas ko jo pala kahave, tise palai nikt ne aave. Kende, if those of you that are referring to yourself as being good, kende good will come nowhere near you. Because you can only say I'm good, that means you're looking down at somebody else whilst you are saying that. That's the only way you can see yourself good, because there's a comparison going on here. That's why Bhagat Kabir ji say to us, Sangat ji, but that is the first step. That's why kende pehla mantrang Raam, Raam, Namang. So they say that first we start off with just physically reciting again and again the mantra that we've been given. We do things almost like robot style. But then Bhagat Kabir ji is saying, if you remain like a robot, and then eventually you start looking down at other people, and now those that are walking on you, meaning spending time with you, you're sniggering at them, oh, you're still doing that, oh, you're still there, you know what, oh. And then Sangatji, Bhagat Kabir ji kehte, Kabir sabte Ham bure, ham taj, phalo sab koe. Bhagat Kabir ji ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਬੀਰ ਸਭ ਤੇ ਹਮ ਬੁਰੇ. They said, I am the worst of all. And sometimes, Sangat ji, when we look at a pankti like this, it seems like from the outside that this is very negative and we're actually being really down on ourselves. No, it's not looking down on ourselves. It's saying that if I think I am better than you, then sabte hum bure, then I am actually the worst of all. I might be doing good actions because dharam is first. Yes, you're doing good actions and you continue to do them throughout your jivan. Sangatji, somebody restrains from taking alcohol, whatever they're doing with their life, they sit there and they do simran. They sit there, they say Vaheguru, Vaheguru. Somebody sits there, reads Gurbani. Somebody goes to the Gurdwara Sahib and they do Jodyan di Seva. They continue to do these things. But the moment I think that main ta bada changa, main kinna changa, look how good I am, the moment I start doing that, and the moment I start seeing that, well, you're not so good, then Kabir Sabte hum, then I become the worst of all. So I'm doing the good actions, but my mind is actually filthy. Kende Kabir Sabte hum bure hum taj palo sab koi. Sangat ji, and you might be thinking, well, oh wow, that's a bit crazy. Sangat ji, that's why Bhagat Kabir ji says eventually then you've got to become like dust. Baba Ishar Singh ji Klerawale would say, that say to the Bahingams sometimes, so the Bahingams are those that have dedicated their entire life in singing the praises of the Guru and Vaheguru ji, and it's what they say, it's like they've married themselves to Guru Granth Sahib ji. So they live a life of, physically they live a life of celibacy and give themselves, dedicate themselves, surrender to Guru Granth Sahib ji underneath the guidance of a Mahapurkh. And Baba Ishar Singh ji pyaro ithe tak kende hunde san, kende you would be better off asleep, remaining asleep, if you're gonna wake up and actually you're gonna have these, bad thoughts towards other people and actually hurt other people's feelings, and you're gonna bring them down. So Sangat ji Kabir kende Kabir sabte hum bure hum taj palo sab koi. Then the truth, then everyone is actually way better than me. Sometimes people do comment back, they'll say, whoa, this is really deep stuff. But this is going into the subtleness of our mind, of how things are actually working inside and what we can get stuck in. And eventually Bhagat Kabir ji will say that now move on. Now actually start being more considerate towards other people. Now you can start becoming that dust and think about, and not just be so harsh to other people and say, well, no, you know what? I need to do what I need to do my way. And if it's disturbing your sleep, whatever. Or what if you look at it in the sense of like when you start thinking you're better than somebody else, Kabir ji says, now it's time for you to become the dust. So after that, this says Kabir, kende ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ, ਪੱਥਰ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਰ ਹੁਣ ਪੱਥਰ ਤੋਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁਣ ਤੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਧੂੜੀ ਬਣ ਜਾ. then they say ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਬੀਰ ਰੋੜਾ ਹੁਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਆ ਪਿਆ ਪੰਥੀ ਕੋ ਦੁਖ ਦੇ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਐਸਾ ਤੇਰਾ ਦਾਸ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਧਰਨੀ ਮਹਿ ਖੇ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ actually a servant of yours is this that becomes ਜੋ ਧਰਨੀ, that becomes the dust of the dharti, meaning that you're now more delicate, you're actually going the right way now. You become Sangat ji, now you become a lot more softer to people. You start to mold yourself in such a way, you find your way and you do your practices in such a way that aren't now disturbing others. You start becoming more considerate now. Now you start seeing that actually, you know what, I was there too where they are today, and actually they need a bit more, tender care and love. That's what they actually need. But then Kabir ji say, kende Kabir khe hui ta kya paya. But then this says, okay, even now, this is even though you become the dust now, kende Kabir khe hui, kende to kya paya, kende and what? Meaning that even here, you still not become perfect. So this isn't becoming, you've not become perfect yet. Then they say, kende jo ud lage ang. And what that means is, kende you've still, kende halle andron halle kacha, kende you've still not made it. Yes, you've now become a lot more soft, a lot more considerate, kende, but when the wind comes and that dust which I've become, it's very soft, because you'll find when you're on this path, you get to a point where you're all about, you feel sorry for people, you're always being kind, you're always in touch with that side of yourself, very soft, and you become very delicate and soft in this path of bhakti, of devotion. But then when something really difficult comes your way and somebody really challenges you, and they say that whether the wind comes, tatti hawa means like a hot wind comes, meaning somebody challenges you, but then you get frustrated, you get angry. So Sangat ji, so we still at that time thode andro pakke nahi hoye halle. So there's still further to go in our dharam yet. So So sometimes being really soft, and then we don't realize what happens is that suddenly a challenging time comes in our life and we're all over the place. Our mind scatters. How did this happen to me? I was being so good. I thought that once you come onto this path, then these things shouldn't happen to you. How comes I've lost my job? You've reacted now that no, this shouldn't happen to me. I've become religious though. And you go so crazy that you get annoyed, you get frustrated, you get angry. The wind actually just hits you and you go around, and then you go into other people's eyes. Going into other people's eyes mean you actually react in anger now. You react in different ways to them now. Sangat ji, so Bhagat Kabir ji says, this is halle ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਰ ਜਨ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਰ ਹੁਣ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਬੀਰ ਖੇ ਹੋਈ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਆ ਪਿਆ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੋ ਉੱਡ ਲਾਗੇ ਅੰਗ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ it's still not enough ਕਹਿੰਦੇ now you need to go even further. So these are stages. So this, when somebody, I remember this is about 8-9 years ago, somebody read this and they said to me, they go, Veerji, what's going on? He says, how comes Kabir saying become this? And he says, nah, no good. Because remember, it doesn't explain it in the English translations. So we're just thinking, all right, yes, I'm going to become like this mitti. Then we're like, Kabir's like, nah, actually I've changed my mind. They haven't changed their mind. Saying these are the stages that you go through. Actually, this is the type of servant you need to become. They said to become now from that dust, then you now become like water. Pani means, jo pani sarbang. Sarbang means that goes and can mold it into any situation of life. Now you've, like Dharam has become a part of you. Now you're able to really just go in and mold yourself. So you are able to now go and be amongst certain people that you couldn't be around in the beginning. And it doesn't take you away from your dharam. It doesn't actually take you away. If you're amongst now somebody that is drinking alcohol, that it doesn't affect you, and you are still able to be there, and you're able to actually have an effect, a positive effect on them now. You're able to clean them in some form of way. Now meaning that you become really nima. You're living in a lot of humility now, like that pani, that you go and sit. You're now starting to sit in everybody else's feet. But then Kabir ji says, no, that's not Allah as well. Kende Kabir, pani hua, ta kya piya? Kende now you've become that water. Kende even that isn't enough now. Kende Kabir, pani hua ta kya piya? Sira tata hoye. Kende still, now this is you become sira, you become cool, and then you become hot. You get affected by the rays of the sun. And this might sound very similar to the dust, that when the wind comes, when the challenges come, that you then, but what this is different. So this is now, this is like, I spoke about this in one of the other kathas. This is now one of the last tests of where you get the sukham home, where now you get that home where you actually maaf karna, you get that ego, that subtle ego inside of you, where you think, oh, look at me, I'm good, I'm quite cool, innit? Like, look how humble I am, and look how I just adapt to different types of people and situations. And then eventually, the moment that ego kicks in and you start to recognize this and you start thinking, oh look, I'm pretty cool banda, innit? And then what happens is, they say you don't realize, because now you've let your guard down with this subtle ego, the sun rays start to affect you now. Actually where you are, you don't, this is one of the, you know, if you've noticed, there's some people that go so far in their jivan, in their life, and you can see now they are shining. They've grown from being like completely shrabi, kwabbi, from completely off it, you know, from Nindya, Chugli, all of that. They've grown. Now they're amongst, they can adapt wherever they've gone. But that gets to their head, and then they actually start getting affected. So they start now becoming that environment. Now they become so relaxed. They've taken that chilled out thing to another level. Then they can almost go back to square one, where they end up getting affected by, yeah, look, chalo appa bhi jaye, we'll go to this restaurant with you lot as well, not caring where the food's come, who's made it, whatever, and not realizing eventually you could become so chilled, you start becoming like that. You start taking on their ways again. You've gone back now to square one. You've gone Sira, Tata, hot, cold, back to Nindya, and not realizing that was the last stage. Kabir ji says, alright, so now what? Kade Kabir, kande har jana aisa chahiye jaisa har hi hoye. Kande in the end, kande we just need you to be just like Vaheguru ji. They said, these are the stages. They said, but there's no perfect example because they've all got a little shortcoming in there, a little fall in there, a little gap in there. So here, Pachi kende mantra Raam Raam, kende this is just the first step. You're saying Raam Raam with your tongue to awaken you, to wake up from inside, kende namang, kende but, kende as you keep growing and you get to such a stage, this is what it means for your meditation to get to this level where dhyanang, your meditation is now sarbat purana. Purana means that Vaheguru ji that is pervading, that Vaheguru ji that is omnipresent, the one that is immersed in everything. Now sarbat, you see that, you start seeing that Vaheguru ji everywhere. So Paatshah ji kehn lage, kende fe kende ke gyanang, kende hun nishani kiya. What's the sign that somebody has reached that avastha that they can see that Vaheguru ji everywhere? How do we know that? They said this is what you will see from their life. You will see that realization. Somebody that has realized Vaheguru ji, this is what you'll see from them is sam. Sam means they see something alike. What do they see alike? Kende sam dukh sukhang. Kende they see sukh and dukh, they see alike. They see no difference in it. So no matter what comes in their way in their life, they treat it the same as if as a real joyous time came into their life. So just like we went through the Sakhi before, Sangaji, we've covered it already. You can go back and just listen to that Sakhi of Bhai Bhikhari ji. So that's like one of the perfect examples. So somebody, Sangaji, that for example, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਕੋਈ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਂ ਆਇਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੇ ਜਨਮ ਲਿਆ. So somebody, there's a child that's born into their house. When that child is born into their house, the khushi, the joy, they are still stable from inside. They are not moved in the sense of their inside hasn't gone up, meaning they're not in that, they're in constant joy. Somebody's in constant joy from inside. They can't go any above that. So they remain, they're in joy anyway. They're in Anand anyway. So they don't go any higher, meaning they don't get caught up in that. So then Sangat ji, that means then when something happens in the future with that child, if that child doesn't turn out to their expectations because of whatever expectation they had, then they don't also in that time of now what somebody would perceive as dukh, that sama has come for them. The child might have gone off the rails, that child might have fallen ill, but they are still there. They are still not moved from inside. But Sangaji, some people say, oh, I was listening to somebody talk, and this is the difference between having a Satguru and just trying to, follow a spiritual path by watching a few videos here and there. So I was listening to somebody, some of you may know the rapper Ice-T, and he was in an interview and he's gone through a huge change in his life. And that change is that he said that I can't do that life I had before. He goes, that life was just full of competition, having the best status out there, having the best name out there, having the best car out there, seeing that somebody's got this now, then I have to better it and get that. Because it was just a crazy, a roller coaster life. And then he said that, and now he goes that I'm pleased by just even the smaller things in life. And he goes, the simple things in life, starting to appreciate more. He goes, just the value of family and not being in that race anymore. And he goes, just, finding and reaching that goal of peace of mind and contentment from inside. But Sangaji, in the same breath, he said, but he goes, obviously, he goes, not to become a zombie as well. And this is the misconception, and this is one of the things that a lot of people, they get mistaken, and they'll say, they say, oh, you've just become like this stone, you've become like this statue. नहीं संगत जी, बहुत अंतर है. There's a big difference. करके जेड़ा अंदर इंसान आनंद विच होवे, somebody may not be affected by different circumstances of life, different situations of life, whether it be birth or whether it be death, whatever it may be, they can be still from inside. But I can tell you, somebody that has reached that state of mind, they're in constant bliss, they're in constant joy from inside. They are in a place inside that we cannot even comprehend, that comes nowhere near the joy even a child's birth gave us, the joy of the day of marriage brought to us. None of these things come near that, and they are in this constant place, and they are full. The difference is they're not a zombie because they've got so much rust and juice inside of them that sometimes just looking at a mere leaf, or just looking at, I say a mere, I've got to stop using that type of language, because a leaf in itself is amazing. A leaf in itself is life. Just like we are life. That is life as well. So, just looking at a leaf, these Brahmgyanis, that they've shared themselves, where they've just looked at a leaf, they've looked at a flower, and just tears of joy are coming down them. No matter where they look towards the sky, and tears of joy are coming down them. They look towards the Dharti, they look towards this earth, and tears of joy. No matter what direction they look, just like Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Sache Paatshah Ji, they sat at the kanda of that place of Jamuna Nadi, where that Jamuna was flowing. And as that Jamuna is flowing, Guru Gobind Singh Ji Paatshah Ji is looking towards that river flowing, and they're saying that Vaheguru Ji, that you are in that water. They're saying that Jale Hari, that Thale Hari, that Vaheguru Ji, that you are in the Jal, Jale Hari, Thale Hari. They're saying that you are in the earth. They're saying, I can see you in that joy. We can't even comprehend it. That even if we look at Paatshah Ji saying here, Jale Hari, Thale Hari, Ore Hari. They said, why? Because I have experienced you inside of my heart. Now I'm wearing those glasses of you. So now wherever I look, I see you. And being in that joy, Sangaji, it's far from being a zombie. You have got so much juice and compassion and love flowing through you, that all you want in your life is one thing. You've still got something left. And what is that one? You want the entire humanity to feel that Anand. Sangaji, some people say that, you know what, we need to get more Sikhs, or you know what, we need to do this, we need to do that. But Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah didn't say we need to create the biggest religion. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah is saying that we need to bring this Anand into everybody's life, because the truth is, when somebody is feeling joy without any outside influence, without any outside stimuli, without anything, Sangaji, they, Pyareo, all they will have is to spread joy. If somebody is joyful inside, then they will bring joy to everyone. We want to be around that person, don't we? Sangaji, do we ever say that, you know what, I just need to relax a bit, and I just need, I need to be kind of rejuvenated a little bit. I feel a bit, I feel drained. And I need to be, we don't say, yeah, we don't say that that person's always miserable. Let's go to them and let's, of course we don't. We say, let's go to that one that is full of energy and vibration and full of joy and anand, because we want a piece of that. So that's what dharma is. That's the path of dharma is. That what you've got inside of you, you go out there and spread it, and you want others to have that joy as well. That's why we say, Nanak Naam, Chardi Kala Tere Pane Sarbat Da Pala. We want Pala for everyone. We want good for everyone. That's why we say that Aap Japai Avar Hai Naam Japave. If you've got that juice flowing inside of you of God's name, you want that to spread into somebody else. Because ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਤ ਦਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਹੋਵੇ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, when you've got so much love with somebody, ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, if you've gone to a kirtan program and your partner's not been able to come with you, and it's a jamming kirtan program, through that kirtan program at some point you will think of your loved one and you'll think, ਹਾਂ ਜੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਆਨੰਦ ਆ ਲੈ ਲੈਂਦੇ. They said only if they were to come as well and they were to reap some and actually feel and experience some of this bliss. And Sangaji, that's what it means, that you're not here trying to grow a religion. What you're trying to do is you want to bring anand into people's lives. Pyareo, so Patsha ji here, going back to the slok, Guru Arjan Dev ji Sache Patsha is talking about Gyanang Sam Dukh Sukhang, that when you see sukh and dukh, you see times of suffering, pain and sukh, of joy, pleasures of life to be the same. You see them to be the same. Kende jugat nirmal. Kende now you jugti of life. Here, the tatta's got a sihari, meaning coming from the word jugti, saying that tadi jugti means the way. Kende your way of life, everything about you now, what is the nishani, what is the sign of now you've got gyan, you've got gyanang, you've got that self-realization. Everything about you becomes nirmal. Mal means dirt, nir means without, meaning pure. Everything now. The way you look at somebody becomes pure. The way your eyes, when they look at somebody that is younger, all they see is out of your mouth. Because your eyes are looking in that way, your senses become so pure, your mind has become so pure, then even your rasana will become pure. Even what comes out of your mouth will become pure. You will only speak in this way now. When you see somebody younger than you, you'll say, "Ah, meri tiye. Oh, come my daughter." You'll say ਤੀ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਮੂੰਹ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕੀ ਨਿਕਲੂਗਾ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਮੁਖ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕੇਵਲ ਇਹ ਨਿਕਲੂਗਾ, ਆ ਭੈਣ ਮੇਰੀ ਹੈ, oh come my sister. And the only thing that will come out of this rasana is when your akkha, when your eyes, the man has become pure, then your akkha become pure, then your rasana becomes pure as well. Then you'll say, "Ha ma, aa mere to sir te hath dhar de." Sangat ji karke asle vich, that one that becomes pure, they'll say to that one, to the one that is older than them, they'll say that my head belongs in your charan. Sangat ji, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿਰ ਆ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਾਊਗਾ, ਤਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮਾਂ ਤੇਰਾ ਹੱਥ ਮੇਰੇ ਸਿਰ ਉੱਪਰ ਜਾਵੇ. ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਹਿਰਦਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਭਰ ਜਾਣਾ. ਐਂਡ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਿਹਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ? ਪਿਆਰ ਸਭਨਾ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਸਾਰੇ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ. Then that pyar is for everyone. That love that is overflowing is not just towards your children, it's for the whole of humanity. Then it's not just your partner that you want them to feel that ananda, that juice. You want the whole of humanity to feel that juice, Sangat ji. Kande gyanang sam dukh sukhang, kande jugat nirmal. Your jugati, your every part of every way of your life becomes so pure. Sangat ji kande nirvairan hai, kande karke vair nahi rehda. Kende pyareo, that somebody that doesn't have any form of hatred, enmity inside of them, that's when you know they want the same thing for everyone. Aa dekho paach ji ne hun keh vi dena sanu, ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦਿਆਲੰ ਸਰਬੱਤਰ ਜੀਆਂ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦਿਆਲੰ, where is their compassion towards? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਰਬੱਤਰ, all jeev, all the beings, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ everyone that has got that breath inside of them, everything that has got life inside of it, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ they are compassionate towards everything. ਸਰਬੱਤਰ ਜੀਆਂ. ਪਾਚ ਜੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪੰਜ ਦੋਖ ਬਿਵਰਜਤੇ. ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਦਿਆਲੰਗ ਸਰਬੱਤਰ ਜੀਆਂ. ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਨਿਗਾ ਹੁਣ, ਮਾਫ ਕਰਨਾ, ਵੈਰ ਨਿਗਾ ਹੁਣ, ਉਹ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਆ. It's not to say that this person thinks bad of me, this person does my nindya, this person slanders me. But no, for you, your compassion is still for them, and your inside is saying that ke tera ਤੇਰਾ ਵੀ ਹਿਰਦਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਨਾਲ ਭਰ ਜਾਵੇ। That may your heart be filled with bliss as well। ਪਿਆਰੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਗਿਆਨੰ, that's a ਗਿਆਨੀ। That is somebody that has reached self-realization। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਨਿੰਦਿਆ ਕਰਦਾ, somebody that is slating them completely and they'll say ਹਾ ਹਾ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ, ਇਹਦੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੀ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਆਨੰਦ ਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਪਿਆਰੇ ਪਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਤਾਂ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ। ਪਰ ਦੇਖੋ ਕਿਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਹਿਰਦਾ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਉਹ ਪੁਰਸ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ। ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪੰਜ ਦੋਖ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦੋਖ, the blemish, the mark that comes from what the punch, from the 5 vices, the 5 thieves, those that calm, that lust, growth, anger, lobe, greed, more attachment, that hankar, that pride, that arrogance, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ what they do to us, that brings so much dag upon us। ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਿਵਰ ਜਿੱਤੇ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਨੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਗਿਆਨੰ, somebody that has now has realization of Vaheguru ji now, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ those 5 do not touch them, they're not marked by them at all। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, greed is nowhere near them। if they've got any greed, the only greed they have got is ਕਿ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਆਨੰਦ ਭਰ ਜਾਵੇ। if they've got any form of greed, they're saying that may everybody be filled with that bliss from inside, with joy inside, where they're not phased as well no matter what comes in their life, they can see everything alike। ਫਿਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਭੋਜਨੰ ਗੋਪਾਲ ਕੀਰਤਨੰ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ what is their food, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਖਾਂਦੇ ਕੀ ਨੇ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਖਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਗੋਪਾਲ ਕੀਰਤਨੰ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ they eat the praises, the ਕੀਰਤਨੰ, the praises of ਗੋਪਾਲ, of ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ। ਪਿਆਰਿਓ ਕਿਤੇ ਆ ਖਾ ਕੇ ਵੇਖੀਏ ਆਪਾਂ, ਵੇਖੀਏ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਢਿੱਡ ਭਰੂਗਾ। This is our true food। It doesn't mean that we don't need the outer food to sustain this body, but it's saying if we want to become content from within our mind, then Sangat ji, then we've got to live in praise। Living in praise meaning living in gratitude। So there's a video I did a few days ago in the Hukamnama Katha, I think it's called Living in Gratitude। Oh jarur dekhiyo, watch that video and it'll cover all of this, half a pankti in that, it's about 40 minutes probably video। ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਪੰਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਲਪ ਮਾਇਆ, ਅਲਪ means ਅਲੇਪ ਰਹਿਣਾ, ਅਲੇਪ ਰਹਿਣਾ means to remain detached, remain untouched। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਲਪ ਮਾਇਆ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ they are not touched by maya at all, they don't get entangled in this illusionary world। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਲ ਕਮਲ ਰਹਤੇ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਵੇਂ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਕਮਲ ਦਾ ਫੁੱਲ ਜਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ। how do they remain in this world? they remain in this world ਕਹਿੰਦੇ just like a lotus flower। ਹੁਣ ਇਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਬਾਹਲਾ ਸਮਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਾਉਣਾ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ, ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹਦੀ ਵੀ ਕਥਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ। if you watch the Anand Karaj video that I did, in that video, in the first 2 parts of the Nand Karaj series, it was done many years ago and the quality probably isn't as great as this, but still you can get the juice from it। I've covered all the analogies you could imagine of the lotus flower। But just very quickly, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah Ji ne, that's the way they have told us to remain in this world। This is jaise jal mein kamal niralam murgai nai sane sane। So they say to us, sane, maaf karna, they say to us in Sri Siddh Gosht di Bani, as Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah is having this conversation with the Siddhs, they're saying jaise jal mein hai kamal niralam murgai nai, oh it is sane, there we go। It's been a long time since I've looked at this pankti। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ jaise jal mein kamal niralam, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ just like ਕਹਿੰਦੇ a lotus flower remains in that water, and this is the upadesh that Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah Ji gave to us। They said live in this way। So what is it about a lotus flower? Number one, a lotus flower has been around for, they say, millions of years, and you might think, oh wow, okay, wow, big deal. Yes, big deal. You know why? Because it's been around for so many millions of years that it's saying it's one of the only flowers, only plants of a certain hemisphere of the world. I can't remember whether it was north now, I think it was north, that where most plants were wiped out during the ice age. So when there was just ice upon this dharti, they said, and then during that time when it was just ice, they said most plants were just wiped out during that time. They said, but a lotus flower is that flower, pyareo, that actually survived even the ice age, and it remained, and the seeds of it, because the seeds of it, even if the plant is gone, they say even if the root is uprooted. So there was an example, I think it was back in about 1945 time, when there was these huge floods in a particular part of the world where there were many lotus flowers, and there were huge floods there. And they say that a lot of the time, if the flood's minor, that a lotus flower is so strong, it's so firm, the roots are in the ground, in the muddy waters, they say that it can actually endure most of what comes towards it. It can tolerate it. But they said these floods were crazy, and they said that all the flowers there, all the plants that were uprooted, everything, even the lotus flower there was uprooted as well. But no other flower and plant grew back there, because their seeds didn't remain and exist as well. Because most seeds, they got a certain amount of time that they can actually exist. But the seeds of that lotus flower, they said that it remained, because they said that a seed of a lotus flower, it can actually remain for thousands of years even without water. It can still then, given the right conditions, after thousands of years, it can still sprout a flower out of it. They said then that same, when the waters receded from that place, they said the lotus flowers, they started all growing back again. Sangaji means that it can tolerate a lot. It can handle a lot. And just like Paatji say to us, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and every time I say this Pangati from Siri Rag, there's a Pangati that I shared when I sat on the stage with Jagraj Singh Ji for the first time. And I always think that pyar hai ki? What is love? So if my veer can take the Pangati out whilst, so the Sangat can look at it, Reman aisi harsyo preet kar jaisi chal kamale lehri naal pachadiye vigse pee vigse asnehe. So Reman aisi harsyo preet kar, if you can just leave that on the screen whilst just last 5 minutes whilst we do Samapti. देख लो, मैं अक्सर सोचदा हुन्ना आ प्यारिओ कि धन गुरु नानक देव जी पातशाह दी अख किहो जी सी. What was Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah's vision like? How did they perceive and look at the world? And often, कहंदे हुंदे ने जिहदे अंदर प्यार होवे, कहंदे somebody that lives consciously all the time. Spoke about this morning. When somebody lives consciously all the time, they're in touch with their creative mind. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah da aap Parmeshwar Roop ne, they're in the embodiment of Vaheguru Ji themselves, but they show us all these skills and show us where we can be in our life. The more consciously we live and not live out of that autopilot, our subconscious mind, that's needed as well for living and surviving, because if that didn't exist, we'd forget how to drive a car, we'd forget how to walk. But that can be doing its job whilst we live consciously for this moment. And when we do that, we become very creative. And we see the world in a completely different way. We see the world like a child perceives the world. A child will look up in the clouds and the child will make a picture out of the cloud. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah was like that innocent child, very creative. Wherever they would go and would say, what is this love? Love is when, you see that emoji and you can see hearts in the eyes. It's when you see love everywhere. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah would look towards a pond. They'd see a lotus flower and they would see hearts. Wouldn't literally see hearts, but you know what I mean. They'd see love there as well. They'd say, Re man. It says, hey my mind. Apne aap nu sambodhan. Speak into your own mind. Kine Re man, hey my mind. Re man aisi harsyo preet kar. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ love ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ in this way. Which way? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੈਸੀ ਜਲ ਕਮਲੇਹ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ just like the ਕਮਲ ਦਾ ਫੁੱਲ, the lotus flower, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ has that love with that water. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਲਹਿਰੀ ਨਾਲ ਪਛਾਰੀਏ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ the waves come ਲਹਿਰੀ ਨਾਲ ਪਛਾਰੀਏ means when something hits something. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਲਹਿਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਸ ਕਮਲ ਦੇ ਫੁੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਜ ਮਾਰਦੀ ਆ. He hits it in so many ways. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਰ ਭੀ ਵਿਗਸੇ, but still ਭੀ ਵਿਗਸੇ, it still blossoms. A sneh with love. He never curses the water to say, what have you done to me? It'll remain blossomed and remain above that water. It'll never murjaunda niga. ਉਹ ਬੰਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ. It doesn't close off and say that I can't believe you're doing this to me. Love is that no matter what comes in your life, you still say to Vaheguru Ji that I still have love inside of my heart. Guru Nanak Dev Ji sees love everywhere. That's what somebody that's got gyan, somebody that has now self-realization, they become like that lotus. They can take whatever comes their way in this life. If somebody curses them, somebody tries to do whatever to them, somebody tries to deceive them, no matter what happens, their family falls apart, but they remain blossom. That love does not leave their heart no matter what happens. It's easier said than done. The people that we tell that we love you, and we have to keep telling them we love you, because we're not always convinced ourselves. Right? Are we sure we love them? We have to keep telling our partner, yeah, we love you. But the moment they do something that we are not, it's not pleasing to us. It doesn't take long nowadays to file for a divorce. It doesn't take long nowadays to say, I can't stand you. That's not love. This is love what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is talking about. This is what the Gyanis have. This is what those Brahm Gyanis have. Kehn lage Paatshah Ji, this whole Shabad is beautiful. मैं एक बारी बहुत चिर पहला, but we never actually put it out on the channel. Probably about 5-6 years ago, I did the Katha of this whole Shabad, I think in 3 parts in London. I'd love to do it again one day. It's beautiful. So Sangat Ji aao. Another quality of the lotus flower, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਰਾਤ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਆ, ਜਦੋਂ ਸੂਰਜ ਡੁੱਬਦਾ ਆ, ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਮਲ ਦਾ ਫੁੱਲ ਆ, ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਚਿੱਕੜ ਵਿੱਚ ਚਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ. When they say that the sun sets, when it's all dark, it said that flower closes and it goes below the water, and inside that water it's mud, it's full of scum. They say, but when the sun comes out again in the morning and it comes and blossoms again, they said it comes out of that water untouched. There's no mud on that flower. Sangat Ji, like this is a Brahm Gyani, that no matter even living in the mud of this world, living amongst all this murky water, that no matter what happens, that the Maya, what is the water? The water is that Maya that we live in. The scum is the attachment. The scum is the dirt, is the filth, is greed. But they live in it and they don't let that dirt touch them. Sangat Ji, ਮੇਰੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਜੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਲੱਗੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦਿਆਲੰਗ ਸਰਬੱਤਰ ਜੀਆਂ ਪੰਚ ਦੋਖ ਬਿਵਰਜਿਤੈ ਭੋਜਨੰ ਗੋਪਾਲ ਕੀਰਤਨੰ ਅਲਪ ਮਾਇਆ ਜਲ ਕਮਲ ਰਹਤੈ ਉਪਦੇਸੰ ਸਮ ਮਿੱਤਰ ਸਤ੍ਰੈ. We've already covered this. They say their teachings are alike. Some alike to mitra, whether it be somebody that treats them as a friend, somebody that treats them as a satra, as a dushman, as an enemy, but they want the same thing for everyone. They want everyone's heart to be filled with love. They want the same for everyone. An enemy could come to them, but they still want that enemy to be in the anand. Kende Bhagavant Bhagat Bhavani. Kende they constantly remain in the bhagati, in the devotion. Tatte no Sihari, Bhav Bhagati, in the devotion. Bhavani, in love. Kende they remain in that loving devotion of Bhagavanta Vaheguru Ji. And don't just think Brahmagyani, them. Think that this is where my Guru is going to take me. Par ninda neh srot sarvanang. They don't listen to the slander of others with their ears. If somebody starts to slander someone else, they'll say, "Na, mere kanna ch ah gand na pao. Don't put this dirt inside of my ears." Asi ta pehla hi bahut maile hain. And they'll always speak in nimarta to say, "We're already filthy," even though they're not. Par ninda neh srot sarvanang. Kende sarvanang meaning my ears, srot meaning to listen. Kende my ears don't listen to, now their ears won't listen to nindya. And if somebody doesn't stop, they've got the ability to actually block off what goes inside of them. Aap tyag sagala renu ke, they have let go of themselves and become the dust of everybody else. Khat lakhyan. Khat means 6, Lakhyan means these qualities. They have all of these 6 qualities inside of them. Puranang, they are perfect beings. What 6 qualities? These are 6 panktiyan that we have just gone through. And even though each pankti has got more than one quality, but Satguru Ji is counting it as each pankti to be a quality. So you can reflect on it, go back through those panktiyan to look at all those different qualities of a Brahmagyani. Khat Lakhyan Puranang Purkha. That being, that is a true, complete being. Kande Nanak Naam Sadh Savajjana. Kande they have, the sadhus have that Naam inside of them. The sadhus are true. Savajjana here means noble. The sadhus, the saints of God, are true noble beings. This is what it means to have Naam inside of you. So Sangat Ji, itniyan bentiyan pravan karniyan. I've made many mistakes going through this. And Sangat Ji, may Sache Padshah, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Pacha Ji bless us to put us on this path. We're not desiring an avastha, we're not desiring, to reach a certain state, but we're desiring for our heart to be filled with love, because that's all a Brahmagyani has inside of them. They have nothing but pyar, they have nothing but love for everybody, for all the sansar. And Pachi is saying to us, truth is, who's gonna get across and be saved? Taryo Brahm Gyani. So आओ इतने बेनतियां प्रवान एक नहीं पर अनेक कई गलतियां हो गई ਹਨ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਬੱਚਾ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਵੀਰ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ ਦੇਣਾ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਹਨ ਪਿਆਰਿਓ ਐਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਸਾਂ ਬਖਸ਼ਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੇਵਾ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।